Hi, welcome back to The Scent Advocate. Tonight, I'm going to talk about two fragrances that are brand new to my collection that I got as birthday presents. They were on my wish list. I'd been testing them for a while and I recently had a birthday, and so these are a couple of the ones I asked for. What I love about these fragrances is not everyone seems to be talking about them. At least when I say seems to be, I don't hear it everywhere. These fragrances are dark, warm, sophisticated, class into bottles. The richness, the depth, complexity, wisdom, and at the same time, uplifting qualities are absolutely amazing. And that's why they are now part of my collection. It's noteworthy that I don't have fragrances from either of these houses in my collection. So I'm kind of surprised. Usually I have well I don't know. I guess I have a few from houses where there's only one, right? One representative fragrance in my collection, but not too many. So these will be among those where they are singletons relative to the house, at least for the moment. So let's start out with the first, which is Eight and Bob's Belvedere. This fragrance, you can see, has a nice dark purple juice. The notes for this are, well, it's a woody gourmand. And so I've got I've got a lot of patchouli and amber that's coming across to me. The other notes are, honey, vanilla, bergamot, lily of the valley, caramel. I don't detect the honey except that there is an unmistakable sweetness, but I think that comes from the plum and the fact that it's a very dark, rich plum. This gives me the feel of macerated, dried fruit, maybe softened up with a little chambord. It's not boozy, really, but it's got that kind of heavy, fruity, dark, sweet, but not too sweet. A natural sweetness, not a fake sweetness. And caramel is a note. I think I might have forgotten to mention that. Caramel is a note, but I don't get a sweet caramel in this at all. I don't get burnt sugar. I do, I guess, get a little booze, but it's that really lovely presentation of patchouli that jumps out at me. The dark, heavy, chocolatey presentation, like a confectionery version of patchouli, that's what I get in this. Very rich, almost cocoa, blending in beautifully with that dark, macerated, drying fruit and the rich, resinous amber. It is lovely, lovely stuff. The person who wears this, you want to be around him or her. By the way, this is completely unisex. I guess maybe it leans a little feminine, but not really, not in an obvious way. I think anyone could wear this. But you want to be around this person because they're saying something incredible that you want to listen to and learn from. And this person has it all together. This person is a grown up. And even though this is a woody gourmand, the gourmand is an adult gourmand. It's not a little kid's sticky cotton candy. No way. Your cotton candy days, no, this is a much more sophisticated expression of gourmand. Absolutely captivating. And I mean that literally. I smell this on my skin and I want to keep going back to it. It's by the way, $255 approximately for 30 mil, which is really pricey in my opinion. I think I'm going to talk about that in future videos. Let me know in the comments if you think the subject of price is overdone. I do hear a lot about it. I don't hear as much about it from Generation X type folks like myself. Maybe it's out there. I just haven't come across it in any large volume. And, our position is, different. Maybe, and I've said this in other videos, maybe we are more established in our careers. We have, the whole life's expense thing pretty much buttoned up. We understand, what comes in, what goes out. We're pretty well budgeted. Maybe we have a little disposable income. How does that affect us? How does the price of fragrance, what do we think about it? I know what other generations think about it, but what about us? Do we care? I do. And yet, here I am with 8 and Bob. And I think that's why my collection is so carefully curated, because I accept the reality that if I want these fragrances new, um, and I can't find them discounted, and unfortunately with indie and niche brands, it can be difficult. With more mainstream niche or with designer brands, you can definitely get great deals. But some of these just no. And that means you're paying retail. And what does that mean for us? Let me know in the comments if that interests you. I don't want to go too far off the path here. 8 and Bob, have you tried it? Have you tried any others from this house? There may be a second fragrance coming for this one. Maybe for the holidays, it will go back on my wish list, this house, because there's another called, I think it's called Bourgogne, and it is a similar character, maybe even similar DNA coming out of this house. Not all fragrance houses have what I would call a DNA, like a kind of hallmark undertone. This one may, because I've tried a few, and this one was definitely without question my first choice. But that other one, Bourgogne, is pretty awesome. I hope I'm saying it right. I hope that's actually what it's called. But this one, let me just add too, that the bergamot in here presents as a spiced orange. Like, have you ever seen the orange pierced with a bunch of cloves and you throw it in wine around the holidays and you make like a glue vine or a mulled wine, that sort of thing? That's the citrus I get here, not the sharp, tangy, zippy bergamot that you can sometimes get in other fragrances. This is a more spiced bergamot, similar or reminiscent of like an Earl Grey tea bergamot. It's not overly acidic. And that gives this fragrance the lift that I get out of it. So even though it may be dark and blustery outside because we're still in the throes of winter here in New York, there is a lift, a brightness to this, despite the heavy, rich, fruit, amber, and patchouli. There's that brightness that comes out and just really lifts your spirits and makes you, excited for the day, even though you come with all this wisdom and you have it all together and all that stuff, which can sometimes come across as stiff. Not this. This is a joy in a bottle, and it is Belvedere by 8 and Bob. Next, we have Dries van Noten Fleur du Mal. Oh yes, here it is. My first Dries van Noten. Now, these fragrances, these two arrived today, and I want to say that I'm a little curious about the presentation of this bottle. Now, you can see the top. It looks speckled. I don't know what that is. If it does feel like real metal. So if this is some kind of tarnish, then fine. Otherwise, it looks scratched. And there's like a divot in the back. And I just opened this up earlier. So I don't know. If you have these Dries Van Noten fragrances, this is a refillable bottle. I don't know if they come in non-refillable bottles. Let me know in the comments, did you have anything like this? Is it just like an antiquing process on the bottle? Is that the design? Is that intentional? I think the bottom of this comes off and maybe that's how you refill it. I'm not sure. But I was a little surprised by that presentation. You could see it's kind of all over. And the bottom part where it says Dries Van Noten appears a little bit darker than the top, a little less shiny. So again, this being my first Dries Van Noten, let me know if this is typical. Yeah, this is a metal, and so it may just be tarnish. So this one I fell in love with. The story is, I was intrigued by the descriptions I'd heard endlessly about the Dries Van Noten, and I can't remember the exact name, but it is the silk and chestnut fragrance. Soie is it Malaquais? I'm not sure. I'm just gonna say silk and chestnut. Okay, that's the one that everyone talks about. So I was intrigued, and when I went to read up on the house, I saw that there were lots of other fragrances, all of which looked interesting. So I got a discovery kit. And when I started testing through the discovery kit, I found the silk and chestnut was very nice. I liked it a lot, but it wasn't wowing me. It wasn't knocking my socks off. And this, by the way, is 100 mil. It's an EDP and it's $350. Now I know that like mil for mil, this costs more, but there's something psychological for me that if I pay more than $300 or ask someone to pay more than $300 for a bottle, there's a line that gets crossed and I start to think long and hard. Like it's really got to be special. And that's probably why the divot and what I truly hope is just a little bit of tarnish that'll come off. That's really why those things, sit with me because, I mean, this is money we worked hard for and it's a lot. And so at a certain point, I start to think, maybe this matters. That's why a lot of times, by the way, presentation matters to me. And I must say that this bottle came in this thing, which, it's fine. It's, what can I say? It's not doing anything special for me. I don't even know if I opened it right. It comes with like their instructions down here. I think it's meant to be recyclable if that's what the whole idea is, and that's good and everything. But, a nice presentation wouldn't hurt. And this feels a little bit lackluster to me. However, the fragrance is amazing. I love the bottle. You know that the bottles matter to me if you followed me at all. And that's another thing I like about the Belvedere. It's a pretty basic bottle, which is fine because it will not conflict in any way with what's already in my collection. And my eyes won't go to it because I'm annoyed with the look. And I recently did a video on bottles that I do have in my collection that just, I love the fragrances and I'm willing to, have the bottle in my collection because I love the fragrances so much. But I am definitely looking for atomizers for those. One of you left me a comment and I love it. That's what I'm doing. So I'm definitely checking out my options there, see if I can find any cute vintage atomizers. But this won't be offensive to the eye, and that's a wonderful thing. So the notes in this fragrance are osmanthus and suede, right? That's the big thing here, but it's also got peach, jasmine, and amber. I did go ahead and spray this on my wrist. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. The opening, though, it's so remarkable. When I first spray this, it hits me that I've smelled something about it before. And I know what it is. It just hit me before I made this video. If you are a Gen Xer, you might remember from the 80s the triangular shaped Liz Claiborne. I don't know if it was an eau de parfum or eau de toilette, probably an eau de toilette. And it was all the rage in the 80s, like in 7th grade, 8th grade, you know, everyone was wearing it. It was amazing. There's a nod in that direction with this. I'm not saying it's the same. It is absolutely not the same. This is its own thing. In fact, I haven't smelled anything quite like this. This is very singular. However, if you remember that fragrance, you're going to get just a little tinge of nostalgia, potentially, like I did when I smelled this, because it's in there. There's something in there that reminds me of that Liz Claiborne. The other thing that jumped out at me is the suede. It does come off at first as a little bit feline, if you know what I mean. Now, when I tested this, that was not the case, but this bottle, from this bottle, it does. So I'm going to see how it quiets down. At first, it's that feline note, like, whoa, what is this? And then it settles and you realize, oh, it's the suede. So the suede has a little bit of an animalic in there, which I did not get from the Discovery Set tester. So that is noteworthy. Yeah, there's peach and it's beautiful. There's amber, but the osmanthus is just stunning. Now, I've said this 1,000 times. If you've watched the channel, I'm not a flower girl. They don't work on me except for purple fragrance flowers, purple flowers, fragrances of purple flowers. And sometimes the yellow waxy tropical flowers like ylang ylang. But anything iris, orris, heliotrope, osmanthus, they work really well on me. This does not present as powdery much, right? The animalic note in the suede offsets what feels like it would otherwise be powdery, plus the juiciness of the peach. So you are left with something more midway between super juicy and dry, right? It's like the perfect fragrance texture, so to speak. That's where you are. Very, very feminine, and that animalic gives it a bold kind of backbone. And that's how it presents on me. So let me know if you get that same expression of suede in here. All right, so those are the two fragrances for tonight. Bob Belvedere and Fleur de Mal by Dries van Noten. If you are not yet a subscriber to the channel, please consider subscribing. I'm trying to build up the channel, and we've got a wonderful community of fragrance aficionados here, and we like to chat, and I'd love to hear from you. I read each and every one of the comments that come through, and I respond to them all. Thank you all so much for your kind support. You've all just been amazing, and I'm so blessed. Thank you. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.